Have you ever come upon anything quite remarkable that permanently altered your life? Experienced outdoorsman and enthusiastic herpetologist, Ethan never imagined his walk over the isolated Woodland Trail would bring him to such a moment. Even the most skeptical person would be in awe at what began as a regular investigation, which later transformed into an adventure so breathtaking. Ethan found not just a unique, but also a legendary material, a mysterious snake with a diamond sparkling in its head. Was it a rare mutation, a freak of nature, or something far more extraordinary? This is the incredible story of Ethan's discovery, his life-changing journey, and the profound lessons he learned about the value of the natural world. This is the amazing narrative of Ethan's discovery, his path of life-changing experience, and the great teachings he discovered about the need of the natural surroundings. Before we start, press the like button, subscribe to our channel, and be sure you click the notification bell to avoid missing any of our incredible tales. With his boots crunching on the gravel surface, Ethan cautiously navigated the winding Woodland Trail. The sounds of the forest alive, chirping birds, fluttering leaves, and the far-off hum of cicadas. For Ethan, this represented more than just a hike. It was an opportunity to connect with the forest and see the great variety of reptiles inhabiting these grounds and call it home. Ethan loved the woods because it always had a way of calming him. Ethan's love of reptiles has driven him on many trips into the wild as an amateur herpetologist and expert outdoorsman. There is always something fresh to discover, he would often say. You just have to keep your eyes open and your mind curious. But today, Ethan will come upon something he could not have been ready for, even with years of expertise. Ethan stopped in his tracks as he circled a hill in the route. There, tanning in a spot of sunlight, was something he had never seen before. On the woodland floor, a snake lay coiled, its smooth body glistening in the sun. But Ethan was drawn to the brilliant diamond buried in the head of the serpent rather than its shimmering scales. Ethan's mind raced with possibilities. Later, Ethan said, "I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But the more closely I examined, the more I understood this was indeed true. This was a miracle, not just a snake. It wasn't just an unusual occurrence. It felt otherworldly for Ethan, like he was looking at something from a folklore story. The diamond sparkled as if it was alive, casting tiny rainbows on the floor of the forest. Standing still and caught between wonder and caution, Ethan's heart pounded. His mind raced with questions. Was this some sort of rare genetic mutation? A bizarre accident of nature? Or perhaps something entirely otherworldly? But today, Ethan will come upon something he could not have been ready for, even with years of expertise. Driven by equal parts thrill, inquiry, and the tantalizing prospect of a once-in-a-lifetime find, Ethan realized he had to have a closer look. He was, however, also well conscious of the hazards. Approaching a snake, especially one he could not instantly identify, might be hazardous. Even though Ethan had handled snakes before, this particular one felt different. It felt like he was being watched by the snake as much as he was watching the snake. Ethan grabbed fast from his bag and put together a crude snake trap. He gently positioned the trap using a long stick, some thread, and a plastic container he had brought along for sample gathering. His hands shook only from the sheer enormity of what he was about to undertake, not from anxiety. The snake stayed still, shockingly, almost as though it were waiting for him to act. Ethan set off the trap with the quick and exact motion of a seasoned outdoorsman, gently pulling the snake off the ground and securely into the container. Ethan's mind raced with excitement as looked at his catch up close and his breath stuck in his throat. A brilliant diamond set in the head of the snake caught the dappled sunlight passing through the woods. It was hypnotic rather than only attractive. As if it possessed some sort of enigmatic force, the stone seemed to pulse with an inner glow. Up close, the diamond even felt more incredible. It was even more breathtaking than he had imagined and sparkled with a brilliance that was out of the world. It seemed flawless, like it was crafted by nature and with utmost care. Ethan was just surprised. The more he looked at the snake, the more he couldn't believe what he was seeing. It seemed alive, like it had a narrative to tell, not only a stone. Carefully, Ethan removed the diamond from the snake's head. Its perfect beauty exceeded everything he had ever seen. Turning it over in his palm, he was astounded by its weight and light-catching quality. And with the way it seemed to pulse with an inner light, he knew that he had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary. Ethan knew he had come across something that could change the course of his life forever. Ethan, meanwhile, was also a man of principle and a great lover of the natural world. No matter how amazing the snake was, he knew he could not keep it under custody. Letting it go was the only choice that felt right to Ethan. The snake wasn't his. It was for the forest. He gently let the serpent back into the wild, then as it slithered elegantly into the foliage. Its diamond-studded head is now just a memory with the diamond safely tucked away in Ethan's pocket. Ethan headed back towards civilization, the gem securely nestled in his pocket. The ramifications of his find spun through his head. He just couldn't get the snake and the diamond out of his head. What was this diamond? How had it come to be embedded in the snake's head? And most importantly, what should he do next? Ethan knew he needed answers, and there was only one place to start. He needed the diamond evaluated by an expert who could inform him of the actual rarity and value of his discovery. Ethan stood in the lavish showroom of the most famous jeweler the next day. The warm glow of the overhead lights reflected off many glittering jewels, while the air smelt strongly of polished wood and velvet. Looking up from his work as Ethan walked towards the counter, the dignified guy with years of expertise was the jeweler. Surprise widened his eyes as he saw the stone in Ethan's fingers. "May I see that, please?" the jeweler requested, his voice quivering with just subdued enthusiasm. Ethan turned over the diamond and watched the jeweler magnify it beneath a glass. His look changed from inquiry to astonishment to total incredulity. The jeweler inquired, his face pale and his hands quivering slightly. "Where did you obtain this? In all my years working for the company, I have seen a lot of diamonds, but I've never seen anything like this." Knowing that the narrative he was going to share would seem almost too perfect to be believed, Ethan inhaled deeply. From the moment he saw the snake to the careful treatment he took in handling it, he related every element of his trip in the woods. Ethan concluded his narrative, and the jeweler slumped back in his chair, clearly in awe and admiration. His voice subdued with respect, he asked, "Do you have any idea what you have found?" "This is a legend, not only a rare diamond." The jeweler continued by saying the diamond was thought to be a component of a myth spanning millennia. Legend has it that there was a breed of snake born with a diamond buried in its head, a stone that grew and changed with the serpent during its life. These snakes have been the stuff of folklore for generations, let alone capture it and remove the diamond. "It's unheard of," the jeweler said, "to find one of these snakes." As the jeweler talked, Ethan paid close attention. Every word accentuated the weight of his finding. Holding it up to the light, the jeweler said, "This diamond is unlike anything I have ever seen. Its brightness and brilliance nearly suggest that it is alive." He stopped, his eyes narrowed as he looked under a microscope at the stone. He pointed to a faint design buried deep within the diamond and asked, "Do you see this here? This is a trademark of its source, not only a normal imperfection. This pattern has been described in ancient texts, in stories passed down through generations of treasure hunters." Ethan's curiosity was piqued. "You mean people have been looking for this?" he asked. The jeweler nodded. "For centuries. The snakes that bear these diamonds are said to be almost mythical. Folklore from many cultures has included them, sometimes as protectors of the forest, other times as omens of great fortune or catastrophe. But there has never been conclusive evidence of their existence until recently." Ethan felt uncomfortable, which balanced his enthusiasm. Content with the calm beauty of the natural world, he had always been a guy of basic pleasures. Being thrown into a world of high-stakes diamond trade and international intrigue was exciting and horrifying at the same time. As he went on, the jeweler's face turned serious. The diamond itself is priceless. It's rare beyond measure, and any collector would pay a fortune for it. But the snake, had you brought it to me alive, it would have been worth 10 times as much. Ethan's heart sank as he realized the full weight of his decision to release the snake. Yet, deep down, he knew he wouldn't have done it any differently. I couldn't keep it captive, Ethan said quietly. It didn't belong to me, and it didn't belong in a cage. The jeweler looked at him with newfound respect. You're a rare breed, Mr. Ethan, he said. Most people would have seen dollar signs and nothing else, but you saw the value in something more than money. That day, Ethan left the jeweler's store carrying a check in his pocket with more zeros than he had ever seen. More than that, though, he departed with a feeling of direction, a sensation he had been part of something remarkable, something far larger than himself. Ethan's life changed in ways he never would have predicted in the next weeks and months. The money from the diamond propelled him into a world of riches and prominence, opening vistas he had never dreamed feasible. He was rubbing shoulders with collectors and experts who would have given everything to get the diamond that had once graced the head of a renowned serpent. Ethan became somewhat famous at upscale galas and private auctions, a man with a story that enthralled everyone who heard it. People would ask, their eyes wide with inquiry, "You're the guy who found the diamond snake? What was it like? Was it really as incredible as they say?" Ethan would smile, recounting his tale with the same awe he had felt on that fateful day in the woods. Ethan never lost sight of what really meant to him, though, even with the flash and gloss of his recently changed existence. Ethan channeled his love of the natural world into programs that preserved the woods and animals he so deeply loved, using his newly acquired riches. The world is full of wonders, Ethan often said, but if we don't take care of it, those wonders will disappear. Ethan's method of returning the gift to the forest that had given him all was nature has given me so much. It only fitting that I help to preserve it. Even with his hectic schedule, Ethan frequently found himself revisiting that fateful day in the forest. Closing his eyes, he could see the sunshine slink through the trees, the peaceful rustling of leaves, and the sparkling diamond that had irrevocably changed his life. Then I considered the snake and the way it stared at me before I let it go. I knew it was genuine. Late at night, Ethan would sit on his porch with a view of the large swath of the forest. Feeling a close relationship with the surroundings, he would listen to the noises of the woods. The forest felt different to him, and it felt like it held more secrets than he could ever imagine. That snake taught me something, he said quietly. It showed me that the ones you protect are the true treasures, not the ones you own. Ethan's narrative evolved into a myth unto itself, motivating many people to discover the hidden beauties of the natural world. If there's one thing I've learned, Ethan would often say to others, the world is full of magic. You just have to be ready to hunt for it. Years passed and Ethan's legacy increased. People all around continued to find great inspiration in his narrative. For Ethan, however, the real prize was knowing he had changed things, that he had utilized his once-in-a-lifetime discovery to produce something significant and enduring. He didn't keep the snake, but he held on to what really mattered, the memory and the lesson learned. Ethan stood at the edge of the woodland one evening as the sun sank below the horizon, thanks overflowing in his heart. He considered the trip that had turned his life, the diamond and the snake. There's magic in these woods, he remarked quietly, his voice blown off by the evening air. Secrets just waiting for people brave enough to find them. Ethan knew he held a little of that magic, a memento of the amazing trip starting with one unworkable stone. Though the diamond had brought him riches and glory, it was the snake that had imparted the real notion of value, that of appreciating the natural world and all its beauty. Ethan smiled, his spirit at peace. He had become a guardian of the wild places and the creatures that called them home, a responsibility he would cherish for the rest of his days.